because he will note it very quickly that this is something. And throughout, he carries around a book. For him having been the leader of majority, I think sometimes he made the ultimate price for his politics, and sometimes even we feared that this person will be put down because he is sticking his neck out too much. So thank you, Aden Duale, for sharing your story with us. We will buy the book, and we will also buy the books for some of our schools, so that the young and upcoming leaders of this country will find a place to say that, yes, this is where I started. With those remarks, I thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, Your Excellency, Mr. Deputy President, having mentioned library, I was informed by the U.S. Embassy representative here that they have gotten 16 copies. One for the Library of Congress in the United States of America, and the other copies will be distributed across the United States of America, across the major academic libraries across the states. We thank you, the representative of the embassy. Up next is
Your Excellency, the President, Deputy President, Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Chief Celebrant of the Day, the Honorable Aden Duale, and all dignitaries that are here, I greet you all good evening. I'll say three quick things. Number one is that when you're speaking, CS Duale, three things came to my mind. Number one is that you have achieved so much because you went to a great university. I know the university that you went to, tucked somewhere in the green, beautiful, lush highlands of the Rift Valley. When you were in class, you didn't have the distraction of matatus running next to your classroom or a discotheque distracting your activities as a student, like some of your neighbors next close to you. I'll not say who. Secondly, Aden, the thing that I celebrate the most about you is that you are a man of immense faith. You know, when you talked about standing by your friends, I remembered a picture that is in the book. If you go through the pictures that are in this book, you will see among the many photos that are in the collage section of the book, you will see a momentous day in the political life of our president, the day that we launched URP at the Bomas of Kenya. And there's a famous photo where he's holding the horn, the sign of our party. If you look at that high table, it has about 6 men. Out of all those 6 men, the only one who supported your presidential bid is Aden Duale. The rest failed by the wayside, and they chose different paths. That speaks to you, that you are a man of great and immense faith. You stand with your friends. Of course, third is that as a senator, you know, I'm seated there between the people that preceded me in the office of a majority leader of the Senate. And when you're speaking between us, we were consulting quickly. When you're speaking about the challenges of devolution, and we said there must be something that you forgot to list as part of, on the chapter of devolution, that on the side of the senators, we hold the view that you are one of the challenges to devolution. I don't think you believe that, but it's a common joke in the Senate. But I know it's for good reason. Now that I serve in this office, I appreciate and know the kind of things that you do. But lastly, because we've been told that 2 to 3 minutes we should be done and out of here, is that I want to challenge my colleagues that are here. It's not every day that you do something that will live 100 years after. There are big politicians in this room and big people, men of means, people who've achieved. But I want to tell you, until when you do what Aden Duale has done, you are yet to do something that will outlive you. Record what you have achieved, the things that you are doing, so that 100 years from now, when none of us is still in this room, there'll be a testimonial to the things that you did. So thank you, Aden Duale, for challenging us. I hope all these leaders that are gathered here, together with everybody else, will find time to read. Of course, the last thing that I will say is that there are many people who ask themselves, where do you get the time to read? But I know that you have a lot of time on your hands. You read a lot of books every day. It's only unfortunate that those books are in the form of WhatsApp messages, TikTok videos, and all the time that you spend on your phone. At least take time to split between that time and reading a book so that you add on to your wisdom and the things that you need to know. Thank you very much, CS Aden. Thank you for giving us this great gift. God bless you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Deputy President, I now welcome Governor Cecily Mbarire, Embu County.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Cabinet Secretaries, the Chief Guests, my friend, Aden Duale, all protocols observed, good evening. I'm extremely excited to be here this evening to witness a major step by a friend of mine, Honorable Aden Duale, who I have known closely since 2007. And we met in Parliament as he was elected an ODM ticket. Then I was on on PNU, and we became friends. He was an assistant minister, I was also an assistant minister, although he was sacked. And the one thing I can tell you about Aden Duale is that he tells you what's in his heart. Upende, usipende, he'll just tell you as is. And if you want to look for somebody who tells what you will not be able to tell, give it to Aden Duale. He will say it. And I'm very sure, I've not read the book, that in this book he has said it all from his heart and from the experiences that he's had as a politician. The other thing about Aden Duale is that he's a very loyal friend. And it's no wonder he has stuck with the president all these years, even when he was going through some very difficult moments. He's very loyal. And he served the Jubilee Party as a majority leader in a very loyal way. He could do anything as long as it was for government. And so when I was appointed the Deputy Chief Whip, he called us to his office. Myself, Washiali, who was the Chief Whip, and he sat us down. And the Deputy Majority Leader, he told us, you've now joined the leadership of the party in the House. The first thing I want to tell you is that the government is always right. So whatever agenda that comes on the floor of this House is our agenda. We make sure we deliver, we ask questions later. And because I'm one who likes to ask questions, it was a very difficult thing for me to learn. But I learned it with time. Number two, he taught me how to be tough on members of parliament. The most difficult group to deal with, and I'm sure Osoro will assert that today, is members of parliament. Because you're leading leaders. And they actually think there's nothing special about you that you're coming here kutuambia story mingi. So they'll ask you questions. They'll challenge you. But he taught me to deal with them without fear. And to tell them even what they don't want to hear. Including, wewe uache mchezo, hii ni serikali. And we did that, and we passed every single agenda of the House, of the government of Jubilee. We made sure it passed. Through thick and thin, including the infamous security laws. And he's a team player. He worked very closely with the Speaker, with us, and he would call us to agree on certain things before they come to the floor of the House. And he was loved and hated in equal measure. Sometimes the MPs loved him so much. Sometimes they didn't like him at all. But that didn't stop him. He continued pushing the agenda. And that's why for me, Duale, I want to say this, that even as you fought that I should not be sacked, and I know you really fought hard for me, and I know the one man who fought so hard for us was Speaker Muturi then, until they started putting question marks on him. Is he really one of us, or is on the other side? I did not think for one moment that you deserved the sack. I believed your loyalty to Jubilee government, to the president then, was beyond measure. You had undivided loyalty to the president then. And any time you spoke, you always reminded me that we must support the agenda of government. And I remember when things started going as they were going between the president and the deputy, we'd sit down with you and we'd really discuss these things and we'd say, let's see how we can get these people waskizane. But it was difficult. So the one thing I remember, and I'm looking forward to reading that chapter, was the day you were sacked. When I was sacked, it was in a PG in State House. And the first phone call I got when I left the gate of State House was from you. Come, you told me, you know, sis, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve this. I'm really sorry. And then I remember telling you, I really doubt they will touch you because you've done a very good job for this government. Of course, the second phone call was from His Excellency, the President. And I was actually just getting to my house. I wanted to go home and just cry out the pain and the anger and frustration. And he called me and told me, please come over to my office. And when I went, I remember you looked at me and started laughing. And then it hit me. It's not this serious. There's life after this. So we survived because of that encouragement. But fast forward, KICC, special PG is called. At one point, we were told the president is coming. The next point, we were told, no, to be on Zoom. And we are sitting there. And I sat at the end because we were already very tired of the government. And we were right at the corner. And I remember Duale was seated, of course, being the majority leader, is seated in front there. Then I watched as, you know, MPs prosecuted the agenda. And I listened to the president say, you know, sometimes friendships and leadership are different. And I'm like, what? Then the next thing, proposal. One lady stood up and said, we want to remove the majority leader. And another one who had no idea where she came from, supported. And Honorable Duale was gone in a second. And I think I felt more pain that day than I did when I was actually sent packing. Why? Because I didn't understand how somebody who has delivered so much for a government can be victimized for no apparent reason. So as we walked out, I remember walking to where the leader was, and I told him, I'm sorry, you didn't deserve this, but guess what? We'll live to fight another day. And our time is coming. And I didn't know you went through so much pain alone after that, but you never showed it. You went to the backbench and continued working like a normal member of parliament. So I want to really appreciate what you've been to us. I want to appreciate that you mentored me as a deputy whip. You taught me the ropes of parliament. You gave me strength to push even very unpopular agenda. You told me that it is possible as a leader at certain levels, you do even the most unpopular things because that's the agenda of government. So I appreciate you, my brother Duale, and I wish you well. Obviously, Your Excellency, you're getting Duale out of the political scene has changed quite a bit because it's not normal to have Duale not speak for a whole month. And the only time he speaks is in some event of the ministry. So I keep feeling you are misplaced. And I'm not saying you should come back, but I keep feeling we've lost a very big voice in the political platform. And I'm very sure sometimes you look at us and wondering why we are not speaking like you used to. So we will try and do and fill that gap that you've left out. So otherwise, thank you so much, Duale. Thank you for mentioning me in your big book. At least my name is somewhere. I thank you. And we wish you well in what you do. And for the future too, thank you so much. And thanks for standing by your friend. I know he means a lot to you. Thanks for being a loyal friend. That's what we are looking for. And Your Excellency, let me say that I know you stood by us when we were going through our challenges. I pray you continue to do that with your current leadership in the executive and in the assembly, and that we'll never have to see leaders go through the humiliation we went through. I really hope it will never happen, but I believe and I know you're not that kind of person, that leaders will be treated right and treated like human beings. Thank you very much. May God bless you. Best wishes, my friend Duale. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency Governor, Your Excellency Mr. President, Your Excellency Deputy President. I now see Cleophas Malala is here. I'll invite you. You'll be taken to the podium for your 3 to 5 minutes. I now get onto the stage the Majority Whip to be very brief in the National Assembly. Then the Cabinet members will be speaking. I thank you.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Right Honorable Moses Wetangula, the Speaker, and all protocols observed. Your Excellency, I came to Parliament 10 years after Honorable Duale had joined Parliament. And it was quite admiring to share a plenary with Honorable Duale, because we had, we were used to seeing him on TV, on debates, and in political scenes, in political rallies. But there are two things that Honorable Duale used to tell us as new and young members of Parliament. Number one, he told us that never forget your family. I remember him telling me that do not leave your wife for whatever reason. And today when I see you seated next to your wife, I see truly you live by your words. Number two thing that Honorable Duale used to tell us, Your Excellency, is that government does not lose. At times, things could be very challenging in the flow of the House. But he would say that you cannot lose. And he was very sharp to the extent that when situations were challenging in the flow of the House, he would be smart enough to withdraw when he does not have numbers in the flow of the House. Fast forward, Your Excellency, I have learned that the things you would say are the things that I need to apply now. That as a leader in the National Assembly, I have an obligation to make sure that the government does not lose, even when it's unpopular, that it will not lose. And by the way, it's important for me to state that even as at now, as the Cabinet Secretary in the Executive, he still finds time to call some of us and remind us that, remember, you're a leader in the National Assembly, and government does not lose. Please do not lose. Although, Your Excellency, there are times that I questioned myself on really what friendship is in terms of politics. When Honorable Duale was ousted from office, at the very week he had pushed government agenda with zeal, that very week he was actually ejected from office unceremoniously. But of importance is the way he behaved even after that. He took his back seat, was still contributing in the flow of the House, but he stood his ground. That shows that when you believe in something, then stick by it. And that is what we've learned from you. But in copying the words that Honorable Duale said, Your Excellency, I believe you also owe us a book. And I think it's important for me to say this. We need to know what happened in 2002, that you only left 3 of you behind Uhuru Kenyatta when you lost in 2002. And I think I need to know that. Then years later, like Honorable Duale has said, at Bomas, of course, there were issues. But what happened at the holding room before you came out, because what you saw is at the plenary. But there was a holding room. You, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. What were you guys discussing about that made Uhuru laugh all through when Right Honorable Raila was making his speech? Those are the things that we need to learn all through. But in conclusion, Your Excellency, with the fact that government does not lose, I also want to assure you that even the finance bill will pass. Government does not lose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Silvanus Osoro. And now to Environment CS, Soipan Tuya. Karibu Waziri.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Excellency Deputy President, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Cabinet colleagues, members of the diplomatic community, members of Parliament, and everybody here. Clearly, I did not know I was going to speak. I think it was by design. But first is to congratulate my brother, Honorable Duale. I'm a mentee of Honorable Duale. Only that I'm not as loud as he is. But he has taught me a few political tricks during our 10 years period together in Parliament. And he actually came to my rescue during the infamous
Governor.
The Ayes Have It. He stood by me when the Speaker was somewhere behind the Speaker's seat, and all my colleagues in the Speaker's panel had deliberately absented themselves from the country. And I was called from maternity leave to deal with a very tough task. And from interactions with Duale, we had a small chit-chat before I went to the seat. And the rest is history. The other day I saw it replayed, and that's one of the tough things that we had to, through thick and thin, make sure that government business was passed in the House, and not to say that we did anything wrong with the verdict of the Ayes Have It. It's a story for another day, and I'm sure probably for another book. And I'm hoping, because I've not yet read the book, that Duale might have done an account of the true story behind the Ayes Have It. With those few remarks, Your Excellency, I will buy the book and also I have a few libraries, about 5 of them, that I'll also buy. So I'll buy 6 books and put some in the 5 libraries. And I know many young Kenyans are going to benefit from your leadership. Thank you very much.
The Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Karibu Waziri.
Your Excellency the President, Your Excellency the Deputy President, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Speaker, my colleague and the Chief Guest, Honorable Aden Duale, and all distinguished guests, good evening. I am actually the least qualified to speak about Honorable Duale, and I consider myself extremely privileged that he has reminisced our interactions in a number of chapters of his book, from Kenya to The Hague and back. And since Honorable Duale is my big brother, I want to start by saying thank you very much for putting me in a book. At least if I don't write anything, someone will read me somewhere in your book, and they will ask themselves, who was this Murkomen? Number two is to really say that I came to know of Honorable Duale because I was recruited to the School of Politics of William Ruto. I was actually picked like the way Jesus picked his disciples. And those of us who have worked with President Ruto, you know he is deliberate in recruiting people to work with him. He actually recruits. So I was this political analyst, and one day he had looked for me, and I had heard a word that he had said derogatory things about me to my member of parliament. So he told my member of parliament, "Where were you when this one was going, talking all these things he's talking on TV?" I hear Lina told back and said, "But he was in ODM with you." I wasn't hearing you. So one day he calls me. Okay, coincidentally we met at the airport. And so we land in Nairobi. And he spends 2 hours speaking to me about leadership and politics. And so he recruited me to his school of leadership, and since then I've never left. That is where I met Aden Duale. I was a young boy, the briefcase carrier. Although I was a university lecturer at a young age, I was the one who used to take the notes behind the scenes. At some point, I was a Mutu Mkono of Isaac Ruto, trying to reclaim UDM, which was being taken away from us. And soon thereafter, I became the Mutu Mkono of the entire team to work on the URP agreement. And in the process, Duale was always there. One thing about Duale, one thing if you don't know about President William Ruto, he knows how to arrange his team like a coach would like Pep Guardiola would do it. Even though I don't like Man City, but he knows how to arrange his team. And so everybody had a strategic job to do in this URP. Even, I dare say, Honorable Chirao Hale Makwere had his role. Do you remember, Mr. President, I asked you, why would you go around with Chirao Hale Makwere? What votes will he bring? You told me, no, this is my Biden. because Obama was the president and he was younger, and there was a Biden old man called Chirao, who was the vice president. So I said, okay, it's fine. So in the rallies I used to observe, Duale would speak at the most critical moment of the rally. And amidst the noise and the loud voice of Duale, there are very few public speakers who speak often consistently and deliver a message from the beginning of the speech to the end. If you doubt, go to the speeches of Honorable Duale. Honorable Duale will speak in a way that when the president now comes to speak in the culmination of the rally, everything had been brought together. It is now number 9 who is going to score the goal. And the president, you know, would just be clapping when Duale is speaking because he knows how to package. It is through this school of William Ruto where Duale was a top student up there and we were trainees, when I learned that even rallies and speeches and messages planned. And so we would sit, Duale would come around and say, what's the message today? Then we'll sit around and work on the message, and then we put together. Then Duale will be the last person to deliver. So one thing about Duale is that he is a team player, he is an eloquent speaker. Number 2, Honorable Duale is loyal. Loyal to his friends, and sometimes loyal to a fault. I actually believed that after we were exed from the leadership positions, I actually thought you would choose to go with President Uhuru Kenyatta. We had actually literally given up. In fact, I admire your tact because, maybe I should not say too much, but let me say this. For a long time, Duale would not call directly. He was still calling on WhatsApp. Those of us who had surrendered, we knew our days were numbered, had already been calling each other directly because even plotting openly what we are going to do to Uhuru Kenyatta. But Duale would come at night and come and sit with the president. So Uhuru Kenyatta was not wrong to sack you because he knew there was no doubt that anything was going to be plotted against the President William Ruto and you are going to sit in that room. So you must give him credit also that it's because of your loyalty that he had to get you out. But even in the hardest moment, there is no day Aden Duale betrayed President Uhuru Kenyatta. Not a single day.
not a single agenda of government that is sabotaged because he believed that the president was not supporting his deputy. He remained consistent, and that is the kind of leader you need when you are in leadership. The last thing I'll say about Honorable Duale is he was also wrong in many ways. I don't think I agreed with Duale in many things, and we disagreed publicly. Yeah, we disagreed publicly. Duale would get so worked up, and we would go and tell the president, you know, hii mtu yako ni msumbufu. Hii mtu boss, weka hii mtu kando za ingine. Particularly, we disagreed completely about the bicameral legislature. I was a mtu wa mkono of first majority leader of Senate, Professor Kindiki. And I think there are many things that you hurt us, Duale, because sometimes you are like an elephant. When you pass through a place and you believe in something, you will clear the path completely. And many of your friends will agree with me that if you believe in something, everything else will have to give way for it. And even where we wanted to compromise a lot, to negotiate and compromise bicameral legislature, we never, you are no time for compromise. That's where we lost you. And as my friend, I'll tell you the truth, as a honest man. But because memoirs is about history and times of all of us living, I did not come here to praise you. I just came to thank you for doing a good job. In the cabinet, I think time has come. When you dance in a stage, I think there comes a time you must exit so that others can play in that stage. Kindiki exited the stage, I became majority leader. I exited the stage, I think the current majority leader is doing even a better job than us. One thing I've learned, and I think that is something we must all learn from Dr. William Ruto, because we are all students of his school, including what he has forwarded here, is that as a leader you must not be petty. You must be ready to facilitate others to even be greater than yourself. And you must be patient in mentoring people. If President William Ruto was someone else, he would not continue to have Duale as his friend, because so many people came to him to tell him, you must leave Duale. So it was not just loyalty of Duale to President Ruto, but President Ruto was also loyal to his friends to a fault. And that's why he stood by Duale and the way he stood by him. I don't want to say much because I would look like I will be soliciting you to be kept in cabinet forever. Let me just say that I admire what you've done. You've challenged us. I am not ready to write a book now. Some of us are not as courageous as yourself. There are some things if you say now, some of us don't want to commit yet. And there are some things you said in that prologue. Honorable Duale, in men's conference this year, you will be disciplined. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Waziri, and I bet that is the moment which also partly contributed to a speedy sale of the book, when we have seen the pages which are circulated on social media platforms. Thank you. I now welcome Your Excellency, Mr. President, Your Excellency, Mr. Deputy President, to this stage, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, Professor Kithure Kindiki. A round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. President, Mr. Deputy President, and all the important guests present here, my friend, my brother, Aden Duale, and your wife. Your Excellency, the President, allow me to also say I'm delighted to be here. Number two, to say that I'm privileged to have been a friend of Aden Duale for many years. Even before I joined Parliament, we knew each other with Aden Duale because of the ICC. In the years preceding the 2013 election, and we spent very many days and nights agonizing when we were in trouble and celebrating whenever we had breakthroughs. We don't have time to recall so many things that we can say. But Aden Duale, you've done us proud. Unlike my brother Kipchumba, my book is also on the way. And that is the way to go. President Ruto has taught us, those of us who have learned leadership under his feet, he's taught us loyalty. And tonight, there is no greater testament of what loyalty does than to see my brother Aden Duale launching his book here as the Cabinet Secretary for the defense of Kenya. It's amazing. My brother, I think you have still some reward, even greater rewards in the days ahead for loyalty. The only caveat is that unlike betrayal, loyalty is paid in installments. Betrayal is the one that is punished instantaneously. But loyalty is paid in bits and pieces over time. You have shown us and you have proved to us that the world has no place for betrayers. And I have no doubt in my mind that the painful moments we went together were to prepare us to happier and greater moments. Lastly, Aden Duale is many things, very many things. But the one thing I've learned about him is that Aden Duale is a very conscientious and religious person. He's a man of faith. I have learned the lesson for those of us in politics and public life. As much as we do what we must do in the public space, we must take care of our private, spiritual, and family lives. And I have very many examples because I have interacted with Aden Duale at very close and personal levels. And I have learned that that separation is very important. And lastly, many people believe politicians love money. Aden Duale and his experience has proved that not all politicians love money. Because if it were about money, at the time when it really mattered, at the time when the issue is the issue before us, and when I say us, is many of us in this room, the issue was, it's either you betray William Ruto and get all the money in the world, or you stick with him and pay the price. Aden Duale chose to stick with his friend, the president. And for the younger politicians, please, friendship, loyalty, truth is superior to power, money, and betrayal. God bless you, and God bless you, my brother. Congratulations, Aden Duale.
Thank you, Professor Kithure Kindiki, Chief Cabinet Secretary, Interior and National Administration. Allow me now, Your Excellency, Mr. President, to welcome back the Defense Cabinet Secretary to this stage with the rest of the running order. Thank you, Waziri.
Your Excellency, what we agreed with Isaac Ruto, he didn't say it. Last night, when he was in Bomet, I told him, please don't revisit when we were in Narok University on this maneno of E-Pesa. But he assured me, he will say that sasa, hii serikali ni ya mama yetu. Which he did not say. Yes, let me just 1 minute before I invite the Honorable Attorney General. Let me just thank Honorable Sankok, our former nominated MP. This man stood with me when we were sacked. We formed a caucus of Sisi Mbarire, Alice Wahome, Kimani Ichungwa, who is in the US, and many others. And every day he was diligent. And at times he could cause chaos by defending our cause. Yes, in this gathering, there are members of my family, extended family, my brothers, my sisters, and I want to recognize them. Let me now call a man who I served with for 7.5 years as my leader, as the Speaker of the National Assembly. He has some chapters, and I allow him, after he finishes, he invites the Speaker of the National Assembly, and the Speaker invites Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, and Honorable Musalia invites the Deputy President to invite you, sir.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Cabinet colleagues here present, governors, my classmate, sorry I forgot to, my classmates, the 8th, the Honorable Papa Roma, members of Parliament present, the members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to come and say a few words about for the record, because some of the things that the Honorable Duale has said, that government does not lose. I have the record. But Your Excellency, I did not know the Honorable Duale very well before the 11th Parliament. But I used to see and admire some things that he used to say, and they formed some small, I think that's almost the renegade group in the 10th Parliament with my friend Isaac Ruto. But Your Excellency, you recall the meeting we had at the Great Rift before the 11th Parliament was inaugurated, and on the 31st of March 2013, we came to the, members came to the House, and I was watching as you had told me, you hid me somewhere, and I was just watching. He says, this guy, I don't know him very well, but he's busy mobilizing people to vote for me. It was no wonder that I got such a resounding victory. Fast forward, Your Excellency. This gentleman, the Honorable Duale, is a very unique character. I don't know how many times Duale would visit my office, and I kept wondering, why is he coming? But it's because of some of the things in this book, because they are in the record. So even as Sopan would go and have some little trouble there, I knew that she was very safe because she was in the safe hands of the Honorable Duale, as I was just hiding behind there. It's part of the record. The Honorable Duale is an extremely consultative person. You'd go receive whatever documentation from various cabinet secretaries, and you'd come with it. I tell him, but you know, at the end of the day, even if we discuss these things, you know, it is your business, it's your responsibility to push through. We said, but you know, I needed you to know. I needed you to know this so that when you see me